Rece Davis joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. When do the Sixers actually go on the clock? You go on the air at 7 Eastern. Is that when shortly thereafter the commissioner puts the Sixers on the clock tonight?
It'll be about 7:30. There's technically the first half hour is like a draft preview show.
Okay.
Then Adam Silver will step up and he'll put the Sixers on the clock, and the process then needs to turn into payoff when they bring Markelle Fultz in.
Well, the conversation is that the Fultz drafting is the process's conclusion. What are you hearing about on that front from folks like Billis and other insiders that are around you, Rece?
He's probably the most complete player in the draft, although, Jay pointed out last night that he only shoots 65% from the line, and while his shot might look better than Lonzo Ball's, Lonzo's a pretty effective shooter, really good athlete, outstanding ball handler. I think it's going to help them because a couple of the Sixers that I talked to earlier, while very high on Ben Simmons as a prospect, did express some reservation about him being, the sole ball handler. And I think maybe having Simmons and Fultz together over the course of the next couple of years, if Embiid can stay healthy, which as much as I like him as a player and as a guy, has not proven that he can do yet. But if he stays healthy and Simmons and Fultz, can come close to reaching their potential, that's a very good trio around which to build. And
then we're assuming Lonzo goes second overall. That would be that would be one of the first surprises if that does not happen. And if it does, then the draft essentially begins at 3. Correct? That's the way is that the way you guys are looking at it tonight?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the Lakers are really interesting because they dumped some salary with Mozgov gone and bringing in Lopez, who's just under contract for one more year. That will free them up for next year. I think it seems most people believe their ultimate dream is to somehow pull off a deal to get Paul George, maybe pursue LeBron in free agency next year, and then have Lonzo there as their threesome to try to ultimately take a swing at the Warriors at some point in the future. So, and at 3, with Boston selecting, Ainge has accumulated all of these assets. And I thought Tom Penn, who's our front office expert, perhaps described Boston best last year, and I think it still applies when he says for the Celtics, there's a whole lot of good, but not much great. They need to take some of these assets and some of these draft picks that Ainge has accumulated and turn that into great, either by selecting a great player, whether that be Jason Tatum or Josh Jackson, presumably, or putting it together to make a trade to get a great player. Because they were the number 1 seed in the East, but it was obvious in the playoffs they were vastly overachieving. I mean, it's a credit to them, but they just don't quite have that greatness to look at them as a true championship contender. While I say that, but I still applaud them for doing what they did. It's remarkable given their roster.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you liked some of that, get some more of that on the Rich Eisen Show app. Follow all the information you see right here on the Rich Eisen Show.